The air is stagnant. A sparse smog seems to drift slowly between the high-rise buildings that line the streets. You're wearing protective gear as you received a notification earlier in the day that there could be dangerous levels of excoriating pollution. You didn't understand the level of the threat at the time, but as you're walking out of a store, you retch at the revoltingly decaying remains of an absol surrounded by a beige pool of what must have been the pavement. Looming over it is the purple shadow of a Swalot, the Poison Bag Pokémon. The stomach evolved in animals as a way to release the energy from foods, increase the efficiency of nutrient absorption, regulate the absorption of nutrients, and decrease the rate of foodborne illnesses. Swalot have what might appear to be perfect stomachs. According to the Pokédex, the combination of acids and enzymes in Swalot's stomach is capable of dissolving anything. Apparently, the only thing they cannot digest is their own stomach, which implies their stomachs are continually being replenished and are highly corrosion resistant. Swalot douse their foes with a hideously toxic secretion that weakens them. Their coup de grace is to swallow them whole, since Swalot have no teeth. Thanks to their anatomy, Swalot are able to consume objects larger than their entire bodies. For instance, a Swalot can easily ingest a car tire that weighs as much as itself. Considering that Swalot are only 70 kilograms, one might wonder where all that consumed matter goes. Perhaps we'll save that for another day, but in this episode I'm going to explain how the stomach works. The stomach is an incredible structure that works completely autonomously. We don't need to know why it works, how it works, even where it is in the human body, and yet it is able to process our food with the efficiency of an entire factory. When I take a bite out of this banana and swallow it, the food is pushed into the stomach by the esophagus. One of the purposes of the esophagus is to separate the mouth from the stomach and the consumption of food with the ventilation of air. Even though the esophagus is one of the only places in the human body that comes in contact with food where no digestion takes place, there is a critical process that starts occurring here called peristalsis. If you could imagine the muscles in your throat doing the Mexican wave, that would be peristalsis. This is why food can still technically go into your stomach if you eat upside down. Food doesn't simply fall into the stomach. When food finally enters the stomach begins to move the food into the small intestine via similar peristaltic contractions. Also, the stomach is made of folded sheets called rugae. Yes, it's pronounced rugae, that unfurl to allow the stomach to expand by up to 40 times its relaxed size. That banana from earlier was mostly made of carbohydrates, but there would have also been trace amounts of fats and proteins. Each of these essential macronutrients, essential meaning we have to acquire them from external sources, has to be processed so it can benefit from their nutritive properties. Carbohydrates are broken down into simple sugars, which are required for the metabolic process of aerobic respiration. Fats are broken down into glycerol and fatty acids, which can be used for energy storage and normal hormonal function. Proteins are broken down into amino acids, which are the Lego bricks of DNA, muscle fibers, and enzymes. Speaking of which, enzymes are needed to break down or digest these macronutrients. An enzyme is a biological catalyst that speeds up the rate of a reaction in the human body without being used up in said reaction. Since the macronutrients are literally different types of molecules, they require different types of enzymes. Amylases digest carbohydrates. Lipases digest lipids or fats. Proteases digest proteins. Swalot have other enzymes for breaking other kinds of matter. Of course, it gets more technical, and I certainly won't be talking about micronutrients here, but the knowledge of enzymes is critical to accurately understand how it is that we are able to process an extraordinary diversity of food products, including ones that are manufactured. It should be clear how incredible the stomach is by now, but there still is one more trick up its sleeve, so to speak. Stomach acid. Before I speak about the powerful potion brewing in Swalot, I must point out that stomach or gastric acid is none other than hydrochloric acid, the same one used in schools and labs worldwide. However, that obviously doesn't mean that we should drink it. Thankfully, hydrochloric acid is not essential. By that I mean that we can replenish it, not that it is not important. Totally not confusing at all. Anyone who has had acid reflux before can testify that acid in the esophagus is a markedly unpleasant experience. Contrary to popular belief, stomach acid does not directly break down food. Rather, it activates pepsin, which is a protease enzyme, because it best works in acidic environments. Technically, pepsin is produced in the stomach to break down proteins into so-called peptides, and then other protease enzymes do the rest of the conversion into amino acids. The other major function of the stomach acid is to destroy any pathogens, such as bacteria, fungi, or viruses. Referring to Gopin's Pokédex entries, we know that Swalot are nothing much more than giant stomachs that can expand to roughly 2 meters in length. Oh, so based on what you said earlier, that should mean Swalot can grow to up to 80 meters? Actually, due to the fact that Swalot's mouth also functions as a cloaca, a special organ that releases all its waste as well as its reproductive cells, it does not have rugae like ours. With their rugae, they're able to contract their stomachs so that they can release reproductive cells from an organ hidden behind their stomachs. Their stomach lining is not made of anything extraordinary, but it is thick and regenerates practically immediately. In humans, the stomach lining has the highest turnover rate of any tissue in the body, regenerating its surface layer after just a few days. Turnover rates are controlled by hormones, such as cortisol and growth hormone. However, the very presence of food in the stomach can also affect the turnover rate of the lining. Presumably, as Swalot developed stronger digestive juices, their stomach lining needed to be replaced faster and faster to avoid formations of ulcers or holes in their stomachs. Eventually, the stomach lining became effectively cancerous, so now it is practically impossible to differentiate between Swalot's true body cells and the epithelial cells of his stomach lining. A consequence of this is that Swalot can recover from a mortal wound in the time it takes to blink. No way. Swalot aren't immortal, surely. Can you please pay close attention? Did I ever say Swalot were immortal? Obviously, for Swalot to continually replace their cells, they are going to need a lot of energy. This is why they are constantly seeking food. Unfortunately for them, whenever they eat non-nutritive substances like car tires and lampposts, there are no macronutrients for their enzymes to digest. So other enzymes that break down metals, plastics, and so on are activated instead. This takes more energy and requires Swalot to eat even more. However, they are so slow that they often cannot find enough energy sources before they die from exhaustion. Oh God, I was getting scared for a moment. Scared? I've barely started talking about what they can do. One of the reasons hydrochloric acid is such an effective killer is because it is an exceptionally strong acid. This is why it's used in commercial labs and chemical plants. However, there are also substances known as superacids, which are even stronger, that can dissolve glass. Of course, Swalot's combination of acid and enzymes can dissolve anything. So how can Swalot even have other organs? It's literally just a cauldron of death. I already mentioned how it takes more energy to break down non-nutritive substances. That's because it takes a lot of energy to make the necessary enzymes. Just like in humans, Swalot's stomach acid and enzymes are not continuously produced and maintained. When a swalot is formed as a gulpin, it takes a while for its stomach to reach its full potential. Until then, its mother provides it with a special concoction of pre-digested foods and matured stomach acid. During this infantile stage of the swallow's development, it develops the rest of its organs to full maturity. When this happens, the swallow begins to seek out food by itself by detecting vibrations from the ground, relying mostly on the polyps on the underside of its body. To get nutrients to pass the stomach lining, even more energy is needed. This energy is used to essentially pull the nutrients from the stomach. To facilitate this active transport, the stomach lining is filled with these structures like villi in our small intestines that dramatically increase the surface area of the stomach. So what are even enzymes exactly? Oh, did I not mention they are biological catalysts, meaning they speed... yes, and what are catalysts? They speed up the rate of a reaction. How? I want to know how enzymes work. Your curiosity shall be rewarded. Catalysts reduce what is known as the activation energy for a reaction to take place. How? Maybe one step at a time? I'm all ears, Professor. My goodness, what a horrific thought. It's a figure of speech, obviously. Go figure. I think you're pronouncing it wrong, but what about the number 5? No. Okay, back to catalysts. Pay close attention to this. Why are you looking away? Well, last time I was looking intently at you and engaged with what you were saying, and you accused me of not paying attention. So I just assumed that I was doing something wrong. Yeah, you jump to conclusions. Listen to this now. According to the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, all the particles in a system have a certain probability of having a certain quantity of energy. The vast majority of particles have less energy than is needed to successfully react. However, there are several ways to increase the probability that a particle will have enough energy, known as the activation energy, to react. Can you suggest what they might be? Increasing temperature? I guess using a catalyst is another way. You said it yourself. Catalysts reduce what is known as the activation energy for a reaction to take place. Exemplary. It would appear you know how to pay attention after all. Actually, temperature changes the distribution entirely, whereas a catalyst simply lowers the activation energy. So an enzyme is just a catalyst that is produced in a living organism. Yeah, and they work by providing an active site for a substrate to interface with, which is just a fancy way of saying that they provide the lock to a key, which could be a macronutrient. You know what macronutrient I need right now? All of the protein. Catch you later, Professor. Why? I'm not a basketball. Swalot are of notable importance to the fields of pharmacology and cancer research. The enzymes in swalot have been shown to exhibit exotic properties, such as surviving acids too strong to be measured. This has led to the use of swalot's enzymes in drug delivery, since cancer cells are generally more acidic than normal body cells, and the enzymes can decompose cancerous tissue. They have been an effective oral medication for use in chemotherapy. Unfortunately, the long-term toxicity of these enzymes is poorly understood in humans, and even the short-term side effects can be perilous if the dose isn't properly calibrated. This is why topical creams and supplements containing the enzymes are banned by most regulatory bodies. Nevertheless, swallowed populations have been slashed due to poaching. Well, a lot of people have begun breeding gulpin more frequently to try and replace the natural stock of swallowed in the wild. Though perhaps due to their lack of intelligence and fear of humans, they will go extinct in the wild before long. Swalot are a living, self-renewing digestive reactor optimized to survive extreme chemistry by divorcing digestion from nutrition and replacing their cells faster than they can be completely obliterated. Their power lies not in infinite acid creation, but in a panoply of specialist enzymes, a radical rate of regeneration, and a variety of energetic trade-offs. Of course, Swalot may be on the verge of extinction for better or for worse, but so is this.